Hey guys, welcome back to another Tumbler tutorial. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to do this double gradient V-split type tumbler. There's no actual name for it, but basically we're going to be doing two completely different colored ombres in one V-split on one cup. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I didn't show this part because you've seen it before, but I mixed about 10 mLs of Brite into about 30 milliliters of epoxy and applied that wet to my cup. That is going to act as my white base. And then I'm going to take a printer piece of paper or any piece of paper. I would use something that's not super thick and sturdy so it can bend around the cup without leaving gapping. But we're going to take a piece of paper and use this V-split acrylic template from a crafty veteran to score two pieces of this kind of triangle. We're going to wrap that flush up to the top of the cup, tape it off, and then we're going to replicate that same thing on the bottom, making sure that the flat part of the template is along the flat part of the cup, and then the triangle is directly in line with the kind of points where the top portion of that template lays. So we want to make sure, again, like I've mentioned in my other V-split tutorials, that our V's or our points on both the top and the bottom are going to match up. It's very, very noticeable in the end result of the design. If they don't match up, they'll look wonky. So just make sure you spend a little extra time focusing on that area. It does make a huge impact on the end result. Once those templates are where I want them, I'm going to take painter's tape and cover up where that white glitter is exposed, and then we're going to go ahead and trim off the excess so we can remove those paper templates that we just laid down so we can start working on our ombres. I'm wiping off the whiteboard marker that I used to line up my V-splits, and then making sure that the tape is completely laid down so there's no lifting where the paint can seep under it. We're going to start going in with our spray paint. Now, I did start with my darkest spray paints first just to make sure that none of that dark spray paint got up into the light portions of the paint where I'm going in with my light colored glitters. With any sort of like a translucent or holographic vinyl, if you have spray splatter in your light sections that's like a really dark glitter, or not glitter, paint, it's very noticeable under that glitter. You see those little specks. So I always make sure to do my light color last. I would rather have a lighter color sprayed into the darker color and have it covered up by a dark glitter than having a darker spray paint showing under my light glitter and then showing that dark spray paint underneath the light glitter. It looks kind of messy. So keep that in mind. If you don't mind that showing through, that's up to you, but I like mine pretty neat and clean and tidy, so I'm just going to be very conscious of how I'm doing my spray paints and in what order. After my paints had some time to dry, I'm going to go in with the Epoxy Method. I will list all of these glitters on the screen as I'm using them. There are a ton of them. I think I had probably, I don't know, at least 10 glitters that I used at the end of this. So I'll list those as I go along. But basically, I'm starting opposite of the spray paint. So I'm going to glitter lightest to darkest. Because the dark glitter is very overwhelming, it can very easily kind of fade down into your other glitter colors and take them over. I always start with my lightest first, that way I can make sure that I have those laid down, locked into place, and then if any of the darker glitters kind of cascade down into my light glitters, they basically just fall off because you've already got that light glitter covering the epoxy, and it doesn't have any way to stick. So that's kind of my thought process behind that. But basically we're going to take the tumbler at, I would say, probably a 75-degree angle. I'm not going to go full-blown 90-degree angles because I don't want the blue gradient glitters to cascade into the purple gradient, and I don't want the purple gradient to cascade into the blue. So we're going to be very cautious of the angle that we're using to ombre these glitters. Normally I would have that full tilt, but because we're basically working on two separate designs, if you think of it in that way, we just need to be kind of conscious of where that glitter is falling down into. So I think I did a pretty good job of being mindful of where the purple glitters and where the blue glitters fell. I didn't have any kind of cascading down into the other colors. So that was something I was kind of proud of. I didn't know if I was going to be able to do it. I'd never done a design like this before with these two completely different color gradients. So I'm happy with how it turned out. So we're basically working, like I said, lightest to darkest. And then once I get to the bottom, I just keep it at a 45-degree angle. These are the same colors, just in different cuts. So Coronation is a really thick glitter, like a chunky glitter, and then Jacksonville is the medium chunky, and then Turks is going to be the fine cut glitter. Because Coronation didn't give me full coverage, I'm just going to go in with those finer cuts, fill in the spaces, and then at the bottom, because I hate having bumpy bottom rims, I kind of used the Turks at the bottom more so than the chunky glitter, because I wanted to not have as much chunkiness at the bottom, less coats of glitter, less heavy cup, that kind of a thing. So that was my thought process there. And then I'm going to pat down the glitter once everything is laid into place. And I'm using one hand of my glove to start patting it down lightest to darkest. I'm going to flip my hand over, and then again I'm going to start patting it down lightest to darkest from the center upwards. Once all that glitter is laid down, I'm going to immediately remove this tape. I'm going to let it hang overnight to cure, and then I'm going to spray seal the heck out of this cup. I don't want any of my glitters to move, so the next morning I'm going to use the Krylon Triple Thick spray. I did probably 3 or 4 decently heavy coats on it. Nothing moved. I didn't get any contamination in the white sections of the glitter, and then we're going to go in with our epoxy. Next, I'm going in with about 30 mLs of Flynn Sisters regular setting epoxy. In total, I did 3 coats of epoxy before going in with my vinyl striping. The first 2 were about 30 milliliters. The second one was about 20 milliliters. I did sand between the second and third coats. You'll see that when I'm laying down the vinyl striping, it is not a glossy surface. I did sand and wipe that down with rubbing alcohol before going in with that striping, just to make sure there were no pokey bits showing underneath when we go ahead and line out this V-split. The vinyl that I'm using is the textured silver metallic from Tech Wrap Craft. I'm using the silver for both sizes of the stripings that I'm laying down. There was a lot color-wise going on with this cup, so I didn't want to overwhelm the design and take away from this ombre that we had going on here, because I think pulling your eyes or diverting your eyes from that gradient would not be my favorite thing. So I really wanted to kind of focus on the glitters more so than the vinyl in this design. I did end up adding a name on this. This was a custom request. She asked me to do purples, teals, light blues, light purples, and white, and I just kind of ran with it. So I played off the kind of the blue and the light blue and the purple. I had a kind of bluish purplish opal shifty vinyl that I used on here for the name. I didn't include that in this tutorial. It was just kind of a afterthought thing. She wanted the name on it, so I didn't tape that portion, but it kind of played off of the blue and the purple, and then also the opal in the middle, so it didn't take away too much, but I also didn't want to do any like offset striping or anything like that. So just gonna go in with the silver, and once that is all laid down, I'm gonna go and put that back on my turner. I did put a coat of polycrylic over the vinyl striping once that was laid down, just to make sure, because it was such a thin stripe on that second set of stripes that you'll see here in a second, that it just very easily lifts under that epoxy. So I didn't want that to lift, cause any problems. So I did put that polycrylic on. I didn't tape it, but keep in mind that's on there before I'm epoxying on my last coats. I am freehanding the second stripe, but keep in mind if you're doing this with a vinyl that is not like a metallic or an opal, if there's something that you're using that's kind of stretchy, keep that in mind. I do keep the vinyl taut, but I don't want to pull too tight because it will stretch the vinyl. It'll thin out your stripe and you'll have to peel it off and redo it. Some vinyl, I don't know if it's just a brand or a different like type of vinyl that does it, or like certain colors or something, but they do stretch out and they will not go back into the shape that you cut them out into. So keep that in mind, that you're pulling tight, but you're not pulling too tight because you don't want to wreck your vinyl. So I'm just going to eyeball this when I'm laying down the second stripe here, both on the top and bottom. And then we're gonna go in with our last coats of epoxy. After 2 final coats of epoxy and sanding around that top rim, this cup is completely finished. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that bell button for notifications on future tutorials. And if you're not already, go ahead and join my Mitten Makers group. That is a behind the scenes kind of maker to maker group. I would love to have you guys. It's completely free. It's not a mentorship group. And I will see you guys next weekend.